Okay, so today I'm going to talk about initiatives and referendums. In the US, the initiative and referendum refers to the state processes that allow citizens to collect signatures to place legislation on the ballot for voters to decide upon. These types of ballots measured are known as citizen-initiated ballot measures. There are 26 states that provide for a statewide initiative or referendum process. The initiative process allows citizens to collect signatures to place a new statute or constitutional amendment on the ballot. The referendum process, or citizens' veto, allows citizens to collect signatures to ask voters whether to uphold or repeal a law. An initiative requires a few steps and can differ state to state. Requires significant backing in the form of a necessary amount of signatures from the electorate. If the proposed law receives majority vote, it gets approved. There can be exceptions to this rule, though. Also, not just anyone can draft a law and submit it. It requires significant and sufficient backing, usually through a certain number of signatures that support this claim and are registered voters. Once this proposed rule or claim is on the ballot, the community can pass it within the majority of the vote. So if they vote and the majority rule that they want that, then it'll go through. There can also be exceptions to this one as well. Okay, so there are a couple different types of initiatives. I'm going to go into those just a little bit. There's citizen, direct, and indirect. Citizen law or amendment introduced by citizens through petition process, either to a legislator or directly to the voters. And that is a citizen initiative. The direct or indirect initiative. Direct initiative proposes or proposals that pass the preliminary requirements go straight into the ballot. If it wins popular vote, then the proposal becomes a law. Then the indirect initiative. Qualified proposal goes into the legislator indirectly. Okay, so that's why it's called the indirect initiative. It goes to the legislator indirectly. They either approve it or oppose it by a similar alternative to the law being suggested. If the legislator doesn't pass the initiative, it may still be included on the ballot and voted on still. What is a referendum? It's when the legislator refers to a specific measure to the electorate, who then will vote to reject or approve it. The vote will reflect to the public preference on a different set of issues that are generally surrounding political significance. These are known to be less controversial and are more likely to be voted on and approved by an electorate than initiatives are, which is kind of interesting. So they must prefer referendums as opposed to initiatives, which I had just spoken about. Types of referendums. There are a few of those as well. The types of referendums that I wrote notes on are popular referendum, obligatory, and optional. The popular referendum proposes, or it's a process which voters may petition to demand a popular vote on a new law proposed by the legislator. It allows voters to approve or repeal an act of legislature. Obligatory is a mandatory referendum. And then their optional referendum. Certain legislation classes require a popular vote for approval or rejection. So referendums seem to fall into these two categories, obligatory or optional. The differences between them. When I say the differences between them, that's the differences between initiatives and then the referendums. They both share the same goal, which enables citizens to take action in the roles in the democratic legislative process. So they're both seeking out the same thing, but just in different ways. Where they differ in their approach and origin is where they really differ. The initiatives starts with the people. The citizens actually draft these and petition to add them to the ballot and vote on it. Whereas the referendums originate with the government, and the legislator submits legislation to the people for approval. The advantages and disadvantages of the citizens' initiative. So I'm going to get into that right now. Some feel that the existence of the initiative process can help check on the activities of the legislator. Some say the legislators are more likely to introduce certain reforms due to the initiative mechanism existing, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because if they do not, an initiative on the issue could be launched anyway. An example of this is that researchers have shown that the U.S. states that use initiatives and this process are more likely to have introduced governance reform policies. So some disadvantages now I'm going to go into. Disadvantages. They can result in badly drafted law. I thought that was interesting. It has been argued in the past that failure to use the expertise provided by government lawyers and officials who are familiar with drafting these processes can lead to laws that are meaningless and ineffective and may need to be redrafted because the individuals or lawyers who drafted them were not experienced in legislative drafting. Also, in some cases, the statute created by the initiative process could be found as unconstitutional, which is obviously not good. It's wasting people's time in some senses. Another similar argument is that citizens cannot make decisions on complex issues that they do not have the background or experience knowledge on the subject at hand. Another frequent criticism of citizen initiatives is that they are really accessible to well-resourced organizations and their interests. So it sounds like they think that the only people that have the resources available to submit these would be organizations that have the availability and they're looking into their best interests. Some see this as a hindrance of rights to unpopular minority groups, which could lead to targeting the rights of these groups within the society that are seen as unpopular. Some advantages and disadvantages now of referendum. It engages the public and business of political debates and decision making. It re-engages the voters with politics and democracy, basically, is what they're saying. Creating a direct link between the people and the power of the government. In cases of difficult negotiations in societies afflicted by conflict, the prospect of a popular vote on the final decision helps resolve the situation to come up with a proposal that can be politically sustained. It could also, these referendums can also be useful to ensure a broad base of political support for a controversial decision, to lock in a choice that will necessitate any unpopular consequences during the implementation process of them. These can be used to resolve political problems, also, the referendums, particularly when a governing party is divided over the issue. This could be used to reach a solution without splitting that party up because they can't make a decision in between. Some arguments against referendums is the last part that I'm going to go into. One is that it can be looked at as a weakening the representative democracy by undermining the role and importance of the elected representatives. So the people that are basically like the representatives, they're in office, they're saying that it undermines possibly their role as to what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes these are seen as a means for the elected representative to avoid having to take an unpopular position or stance on a controversial issue or topic. I feel like we've definitely seen that occur and happen at times. Sometimes voters don't have the capacity or information to make informed decisions about the issues at stake and may make poor decisions due to less background information, knowledge, and facts. They could be voting and just have hearsay. They might not have true facts. They might not have had time to research it, and then they're voting and making a decision on something they don't have any capacity or understanding of. Okay, thank you, and thanks for listening. Okay, bye.